Week 2 of the 2023 NFL season is officially in the books, and we got a little bit of a better idea of some teams, and there are many other teams that are still trying to figure out their identity. But as for the games themselves, there were a couple of interesting ones, and then there were others that had you say, what the hell just happened here? And then there are other ones that are just, They're just But anyway, let's take a look around the league as we wrap up week 2 of this recently ongoing season. So we started things off, of course, on Thursday Night Football, the first Amazon Prime, only on Prime Video, Thursday Night Football game. Yes, that Jeff Bezos money pal, as the Philadelphia Eagles hosted the Minnesota Vikings in a game that, Minnesota could have won, but they shot themselves in the foot one too many times. And even with the comeback attempt, there just wasn't enough time to do such, as the Eagles held on to beat the Vikings 34-28 on Thursday. Going to the Sunday slate of games in the early morning portion, despite another good game from Jordan Love, he made a very weird quarterback sneak attempt as Desmond Ridder and the Falcons rallied from 24-12 down in the fourth quarter off the back of Ridder and Bijan Robinson's pretty solid performances as the Falcons beat the Packers 25-24. Down in Buffalo, Josh Allen bounced back from a pretty bad week 1 in New Jersey to expose the Raiders with 3 touchdowns as the Bills smashed the Raiders 38-10. In Cincinnati, Lamar Jackson had exactly the game that I was looking for, and perhaps their fans were too, as he spread the wealth around on offense to his new look offense. As despite what the score says, 27-24 against the Cincinnati Bengals, the Ravens bullied them for much of this game. In Detroit, in the Motor City, the Lions, they may have had a sold-out crowd for the first time in forever. However, there were a lot of mistakes that would wind up costing this game against the Seahawks, especially in the pass rush, who spoiled the party for the Lions thanks to Tyler Lockett's pylon-reaching touchdown reception as the Seahawks beat the Detroit Lions 37-31 in overtime. In a battle of second versus fourth overall pick, Anthony Richardson looked like a better quarterback than CJ Stroud, but for a quarter at least, because he left with the concussion. However, it didn't matter for Indianapolis as they still managed to put on the route with Uncle Rico, Gardner Minshew at the helm, as the Colts managed to beat the Houston Texans 31-20. Someone get an offensive line for CJ Stroud, please. Down in the land of all elite, it was an offensive struggle for much of the game, but the difference maker for this game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Jacksonville Jaguars was 2 touchdowns from Patrick Mahomes to Travis Kelce and Sky Moore, as the Chiefs staved off a very late push from Jacksonville to beat them 17-9 in this sluggish game. Down in Tampa Bay, the Bucs had the Bears hanging around, yes, despite dominating the total time on offense, but a late comeback attempt by Chicago was ill-fated as Justin Fields threw a pick 6 to Shaquille Barrett, the linebacker, and that sealed a 2-0 record for the Bucs against the Chicago Bears 27-17. And then down in Nashville, Ryan Tannehill bounced back from a very shaky week 1 game in New Orleans with a very solid and cleaner performance against the LA Chargers, who helped Tennessee get past the Clippers 27-24 in overtime. Looking at the afternoon slate of games, down in Arizona, in the desert, the Cardinals were actually up 28-7. Yes, against, guess who? The New York Giants. Early in the third quarter, and looked like it was going to be another blowout for the G-men. But Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley said, They came alive in the fourth quarter, and the Giants managed to storm back against Arizona 31-28. However, they won't have Saquon Barkley for week 3 with the right ankle sprain. So, unfortunate news there. Meanwhile, down in Los Angeles, or should I say San Francisco South, in the Red Sea in Levi South, it was actually a tight contest for first place in the NFC West, but the 49ers defense eventually locked in as they managed 2 interceptions on Matthew Stafford. Brock Purdy had another solid game, but not perfect, but still nonetheless. 2 interceptions on Matthew Stafford in the second half ultimately proved vital as the San Francisco 49ers beat the LA Rams 30-23. Down in the Big D, Big Dallas, Texas, it was right back to square one for the New York Jets as the Cowboys defense picked apart the turnover-prone Zach Wilson for 3 interceptions, multiple sacks, and kicker Brandon Aubrey led the scoring as the Cowboys beat the Jets 30-10. And then in the Mile High, the Washington Commanders overcame a 21-3 deficit laid on from Denver in the first half. And then they flipped the switch in the second half as they took their own big lead in the fourth quarter as Washington attempted to avoid overtime, and they successfully did. And they looked staring in the face of that after Russell Wilson threw a Hail Mary, which landed to the arms of, I forget who it was, but nonetheless, they avoided overtime after the Broncos had a Fail Mary 2-point try as the Commanders held on to win that game 35-33. Then the Sunday Night Football game of Week 2, the Miami Dolphins faced off against the New England Patriots, and the Patriots were once again close to rallying back from another big deficit, just like in Week 1, but also just like in Week 1, a strange turn of events barely stopped them in their tracks. This time, when they were trying to tie the game, Mike Gesicki, the tight end, desperately pitched it to his lineman, Cole Strange, and Cole Strange almost made a first down, but after review, he was just short of converting a key fourth down as the Dolphins held off the New England Patriots 24-17. And then in the Monday Night Football McDoubleheader that will surely bury Monday Night Raw in the ratings and in viewership, not just on YouTube, but all over social media. Granted, look at the result of Raw. It's not pretty, ladies and gentlemen. But these Monday night games, I mean, they were so-so. But for the first Monday Night Football game, the New Orleans Saints went down to Carolina. And yeah, they didn't play exactly their great game either. But Saints running back Tony Jones Jr. vultured for 2 touchdowns. The Panthers, though, made things nearly interesting late in the game, but they couldn't secure the onside kick with a minute left as New Orleans held on 20-17. And then the final game of Week 2, it was a defensive battle between 2 AFC North division rivals, but the Steelers managed to sack Deshaun Watson 6 times and forced 2 turnover touchdowns on the very first play, a pick 6 on Deshaun Watson, and then they strip sacked him, and TJ Watt recovered it for a fumble recovery touchdown as the Steelers bounced back from an embarrassing first week loss to beat the Cleveland Browns 26-22. So that was your Week 2 recap for the 2023 season here on Very Cold Lasagna. So let's talk about some winners and losers of Week 2. So looking at my 2 winners for this week, I have to look at this Baltimore Ravens offense. You know, entering Week 2, as I said in my preview for this week, I wanted to see their passing attack finally make themselves known. Because, you know, when that Week 1 win against the Houston Texans, it was all about the running game. It was pretty much their defense doing their share, making themselves known against a weaker team with C.J. Stroud and the Texans. But going into this game against Cincinnati and in a vital division game, they did such. That offense with Mark Andrews, who I of course, we didn't know he was going to play, but he did. And then you also had Rashad Bateman, the rookie Zay Flowers, Odell Beckham Jr., who left the game with an ankle injury, though. And then you even had Nelson Aguilar, who I forgot was even there. But nonetheless, you had this star-powered offense now, who Lamar Jackson can now share the wealth with, that defenders are not just going to be targeting Mark Andrews anymore. Like, they have to figure out, oh, and do I need to go after Andrews? Do I need to go after Bateman? Do I need to go after Zay Flowers? Like, they have to go figure out, who do I need to target now if you're on defense? And then the rushing attack with Justice Hill and Gus Edwards, they took some pressure off of Lamar with in the running game. And sure, like, the stats will say, oh, no, they didn't do such. But no, they did with the first downs that they got. And, you know, the game plan was to make sure that Lamar Jackson doesn't run the ball as much. He only runs the ball when necessary. So the Ravens offense, I thought they were pretty efficient in Cincinnati, and who knows? Maybe they can start slowly but surely crawling their way up in this AFC North. But yeah, it can only go up from here. And then the Steelers defense, they bounced back from a rough week 1 against the 49ers. Maybe it's a little bit of feeling out process, or maybe they just played a better team. But that Steelers defense is going to, once again, probably going to try to carry this team into wins. But good performance from them this week. Alex Highsmith getting a pick 6 on the very first play, and then a key strip sack fumble that TJ Watt picked up. Speaking of which, another multi-sack game, and breaking I think it's the franchise record that Joe Buck kept mentioning. So all in all, a pretty successful night for Pittsburgh and giving them some life for at least this week, heading into their Sunday night game against the Raiders. Looking at some losers for this week, the Cincinnati Bengals. They pretty much had no answers for Lamar Jackson in that deadly Ravens offense all game, whether it was on the ground or in the air. And then conversely on offense, it looks like Joe Burrow not only looks rusty still from the lack of training camp, but he revealed that he's still not fully healthy from the calf strain. And he also revealed that he aggravated that calf injury. So the Bengals got to be careful here. They have to tread lightly with this injury going forward, because one bad move, this season can be toast. If it's not toasted already, now that they're starting 0-2 again for the second straight season. And I don't know. Well, I mean, it's still early to say, but things are not looking good already for Cincinnati, especially with the 50%, probably even less than that, Joe Burrow. And then the Denver Broncos, man, I get it. They're still trying to figure things out with Sean Payton as their new head coach. But man, how is it that you can look so promising in the first half and then look like crap in the second half on offense? That was like the Denver Broncos, who looked revitalized. And not only on offense, but on defense too. They were so aggressive when they were supposed to be against the Commanders, who had pretty much no offensive line to protect Sam Howell. And then all of a sudden, safety Kareem Jackson gets ejected for another bad hit. And then all of a sudden, the defense turns into crap. They can't get any pressure on Sam Howell with no offensive line to speak of. And then on the opposite end, Russell Wilson and the offense start caving in to the Commanders' own vaunted front. So what happened there? Really? You really let that lead, that 21-3 lead, just zip away like that. So 2 weeks in, we're looking at this new Broncos team with the new head coach, but with the same choking mindset from last year. It's like they still really have the Daniel Hackett genes in there. So my one big takeaway from week 2, heading into week 3, is pretty much about Anthony Richardson. Not about how he played, because, I think the way he plays, I think he looks poised. He's pretty smart with the football. My only concern is some of his play style, because he tends to run a lot. He's pretty much like a rushing quarterback, and I think the Colts need to step in on his approach with that, because this is pretty much the second straight week where he had to leave a game because of some kind of injury. Last week was the knee issue, I think, the knee or shoulder issue. And now this week, he had to leave because he had to go into concussion protocol. And all of that was related to how he plays. He pretty much, half of the Colts scores were Anthony Richardson running it into the end zone. And then the last one was him hitting his head in the back of his head because some guy pushed him, and then that's how he fell. So head coach Shane Steichen either needs to train him how to limit his running, or get some play calls in for Richardson to throw the ball more, or you gotta mentally train him to not do it so much. I mean, look at Lamar Jackson right now. I mean, everyone cannot be Lamar Jackson, but he's throwing the ball way less right now. But everyone's different, but you got to figure out how to get Anthony Richardson to run it so much less. Because in the long run, if he keeps getting injured every week or having to leave the game every week, it's not going to be a good outlook long term. So just wanted to put it out there. But anyway, that's my recap for week 2 of the 2023 NFL season. Obviously, we go at week by week by week. Every week's going to be different. And who knows what to expect for week 3 as we go along here. But anyway, let me know. Ooh, let me know your thoughts on week 3. Week 3. Wow, we're going really into the future. But anyway, week 2 of the 2023 NFL season that is just wrapped up. And yeah, let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. Who are your winners and losers of week 2, and what was your takeaway from it in the comments below. But anyway, this is DylanLasagna signing out. Very Cold Lasagna with another recap of the 2023 NFL season. And keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports. And until next time, peace out.